Using my Sigma Select stone the other night got me curious about sharpening Maxamet on it. The reason being that 1K stone is made out of silicon carbide. Now my Microscopic stones, of course, are also made out of silicon carbide, and they cut this steel just fine. I'm not sure what the result is going to be, but I'm going to give it a test to find out if it will sharpen this. If you use aluminum oxide on this steel, as I've shown before, the edge will just fall to pieces. I think it's probably due to steel fatigue. The aluminum oxide is just not hard enough to cut this steel. It makes it weak, and therefore it just starts to fail and crumble. I'm not sure that's what really happens, but that's what I think is going on. Right now my edge has some microchips in it. I do use this at work, so it's got a little bit of damage going on. Got my silicon carbide stones from Microscopic in the water soaking, just in case I need to break them out to repair this. Go ahead and cut this edge off. And we're going to see what happens. Now this is the Sigma Select 2. I've had it soaking in water for about, I don't know, maybe 30-40 minutes. And we'll go ahead and get started. Well, the steel feels like it's skating across the stone. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of cutting going on. The real challenge will be when I actually get down to the apex. Check out Super Steel Steve. He's been doing a lot of edge retention testing on YouTube. He does it for the working man, and as he puts it, does it really matter? So a lot of the hype that you hear around super steels and things like that, he brings to light, where a lot of it is just bullshit. He did a recent video on edge retention for a GEC, a case knife, and white steel from Murray Carter, and showed that the simple white steel, heat treated properly, outperformed the other two. I thought it was a really interesting video. He also gave me a shout out, which I feel the need to reciprocate. Although, if you're on my channel, chances are you already know about Super Steel Steve. I still got a little bit of a chip right here in the belly and right here. Other than that though, seems to be holding up. That's a good sign. Now the way I understand it, not all of the Sigma stones are made with silicon carbide. So if this does work, don't think you can run out and purchase a whole set of the Sigma stones and be able to sharpen Maxamet on them. I can't account for anything other than this 1K stone. And like I said, once I get down to that apex and get this chip out, I'll be able to give you an answer on whether or not Maxamet can be sharpened on. Went way over angle there. These chips are getting smaller and smaller, and I'm not seeing my edge on the stone, so these are all good signs. This stone is very hard. I said the other night that I would put it in the same category as a Sharpen 320. Sharpen 320 is a little bit friable, so it's deceptively hard. You can actually confuse that friability with softness. It's not a soft stone. If I had to redo that, I would probably say this stone is just as hard as the Gritomatic 1K. It's very similar to that stone in terms of cutting speed, friability, and hardness. Friable stones like this can cut a variety of super steels because they're constantly releasing fresh abrasives. So you're never dealing with a glazed stone or anything like that. As that grit releases, you're constantly getting fresh abrasive that is plowing into that steel and removing it. So I've found friable stones work a lot better than, say, a Sharpening glass when you're dealing with a super steel. Now, I'm not saying all of them can cut Maxamet, but this one appears to be handling it. This is the 1K edge, fresh off the stone. You can see some of the areas that I wiped it down, but there was still a little swarf on the bevel itself. That's that little gray streak you see at the top of the screen. I'm just going down the edge, and I'm getting close to where I had that chip. You can kind of see there's still a little bit of damage there. The apex isn't quite flush and flat. It's a little bit of a hollow. And right here you can see a fairly deep gouge. It's not horrible, but it's enough that I can see it, so I haven't got all that damage out from that microchip. Again, you can see where I didn't wipe the swarf completely off. I'll try to do a voiceover for the magnified shot, but getting up in the area where I had that chip, you can see still the apex itself had a little damage, so I'm going to go just a little bit longer on this stone. Other than that though, the edge looked good. I didn't see any breaking of it. It looked pretty consistent to me, at least the apex. It's just that little spot right in here where I had that chip. And I got real sloppy in this second sharpening. Hopefully I didn't screw anything up. So this is the second sharpening off the 1K stone. The lighting wasn't quite right, so it doesn't look quite as crisp as the other one. However, you can still see the apex and it looks a lot cleaner. So it looks like I've got all that damage out. There's a little bit of a closer view of it. Again, this is right where that microchip was. Apex looks a little jagged, but nothing to be really concerned about. Stropping will clean it up. I'm going to go ahead and strop on CBN emulsion 2 micron. That feels clean to me. So in terms of the Sigma Select, at least the 1K stone, it can indeed sharp Maxamet. So yet another tool to throw in the arsenal if you're not a fan of diamonds, like me. And this is the final edge. It's after the 1K stone and stropping with CBN emulsion. Everything looks good. I don't see any damage. The edge didn't crumble. Now this is after all the 1K edge, so it's still going to have a little bit of toothy aggression as well as some serrations. That's going to be expected, but for the most part the apex looks pretty clean. No longer have damage. That chip is completely gone. You can't even tell it was there. And a little bit of a closer picture. That's that little gouge I was seeing earlier. It's just the lighting, it appears. Looks good. Well guys, I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Y'all have a good one.